minutes of his time during the training session to talk to the players. Among was Gael Ontoa, a midfield player. Let's get his reactions. He was interviewed by our reporters on the ground in Akata, Mirabo Mahop and Makshwamo.
If you look the first half we have more opportunity to score goals, and I know that if we should score those goals, then we should win the game. But you know, in football, if you don't score, maybe you concede. This will never change. Because if you look the history of our countries, you know, we always stay focused and we never give up. And I think we have a team and a player with qualities. And I know that we can still improve for the next game.
Just to let you know that Gael Ontoa was interviewed by our reporters on the ground in Qatar, Mirabo Mahop and Makshwamo. And the Indomitable Lions are at their 8th World Cup participation, a record none of the African nations has come close to. In the following report, our reporter Saleh Sharifa highlights their defeat and success recorded at the FIFA World Cup. Her story.
Cameroon's Indomitable Lions are currently at their 8th World Cup participation, a record for the African continent as no other nation has come close. In fact, they qualified for the tournament 4 times consecutively between 1990 and 2002. However, the team has only made it out of the group stage once. They were the first African team to reach the quarterfinal of the 1990 World Cup, losing to England in extra time. They have also won 5 African Cup of Nations. The Lions qualified for its first FIFA World Cup in 1982. Despite being unbeaten, they failed to qualify for the second round, having scored fewer goals and dealt a 1-0 defeat from Switzerland. The 48-minute goal was scored. Cameroon had squandered at least 3 scoring opportunities at the first half. Cameroonians remain optimistic with the matches left for the Lions at the 2022 Qatar World Cup.
And today is commemorated as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which is followed by a global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We took interest in a call center situated in the heart of Accra, Douala, Cameroon, a call center meant for women and families to denounce all forms of violence against them. Unfortunately, the call center still remains unpopular as only 40% of women visits the center a month.
As we walked into the Divisional Delegation of Women Empowerment and the Family for Wari, situated in the heart of Accra, Douala, this November 25, there are no clear indications. It plays a double role of a call center for women, girls and families to denounce or report all forms of violence and abuses. Just this flyer on the door is indicative.
We are not doing enough to sensitize people for them to know more about the center and reason why it was created. If people know the objectives behind, then they will come here every day.
Jacques Bernadette declarations on daily operations of the call center, registering at least 40 cases a month, is castigated by women rights activists and journalist Clarence Yongo.
I know the center was created between 2015 and 2016, but it had difficulties operating, so they had to shut down. I'm surprised to hear today that it's still functioning. I describe the center as a misplaced tool unable to solve a just cause.
Created some 8 years ago, a solution to eliminating violence against women and girls, the call center is still lacking in proper follow-up mechanisms, strategies and plan of actions that could pull the women to open up. After this stage, providing the right health care and security is still challenging.
The types of cases we receive need specific solutions linked to security, how we accompany them through their trauma, how we take the victims out of their families.
Bernadette tells me of traumatizing cases that has often pushed her to the extreme. Despite the challenges, women, girls and families have been challenged to seek the services of the call center
in Akwa Douala by simply denouncing all forms of violence, sexual abuse and rape. And the Ministry of Public Health and Cameroon's employers cartel, SHICAM, have taken the commitment to reinforce employees' health care and safety in order to fight against a stigma, improve productivity and positively affect change in the economy. The commitment was taken today during an advocacy meeting in Douala aimed at discussing strategies to improve employees' health care and safety. More on the story with our reporter Gladys Ambu Tiba.
Less than 7% of Cameroon's workforce can afford health care, according to the Ministry of Public Health. A majority of enterprises neglect the health and safety of their employees, whereas effective workforce management cuts costs, improves productivity, and helps build a sustainable business. Public-private partnership is therefore essential to fight against epidemics and pandemics in Cameroon.
Without public-private partnership, there's no development, mostly on health, because if we want the health of our population, we need to work together. We need to set up a framework where together again we can sit up and make a review of what we have put so far to see if there's any change.
COVID-19, malaria, HIV and tuberculosis continue to pose a threat to the workforce of many companies. The employers cartel SHICAM reveals that in 2021, 96.6% of 250 enterprises surveyed were negatively impacted by COVID-19. At this meeting in Douala, November 25, enterprises and the public sector shared best practices to improve on employees' health care and safety.
Measure that we take, we have our educational workers which sensitize their colleagues from the attitude that can give them the illness, and we give them preservatives any month to prevent them, and each salary knows that you have to do this test once a year.
The Ministry of Public Health has therefore taken the commitment to henceforth assist enterprises in their occupational health and safety policies and valorize enterprises that respect their health policies.
Providers of medical devices in Cameroon are polishing the sector in order to weed out quacks who have invaded the sector without a mastery of medical laws. The met in Douala for an first extraordinary General Assembly, as we end the following story with our reporter, Kejan Henry Atembe.
It is incredibly important that medical equipment from a moral, technological, medical and legal standpoint are in full working conditions as crucial life-saving tools. It takes only the savvy of medical technologists and doctors to have a mastery of the procedure. And so, to reform the sector and avoid medical accidents, distributors of medical devices have met in Douala for their first extraordinary General Assembly to polish the text governing the sector.
Having noticed this delay or some kind of inertia, we decided to call an extraordinary General Assembly. First of all, to straighten our texts as well, the statute, and clean up some mess that was caused at the very genesis.
Like many professions, this sector has equally been infiltrated by quacks. The more reason why discipline must be installed.
The government counts on us a lot as distributors of medical devices in its effort to improve the quality of healthcare services. Because some people think it's a very interesting business, you know, quacks just jump in at times, and an association like our own is going to help, you know, bringing in some order.
The November 24, 2022 Douala Conclave sets the pace for quality supply of medical devices across Cameroon for quality treatment of the population.
The printing sector in Cameroon has been described as a fertile ground to new employment and a booster to Cameroon's economy, but printers continue to decry high taxes, high custom duties and others, which they say is a major hindrance to growth of the sector. More in the following story.
As years go by, many people continue to abandon the printing business in Cameroon as a result of high taxes, custom duties, and unfavorable legal system.
The printing is done abroad. Publishers are complaining that our price is expensive, and it's not our fault. The price of the paper is going high. Also, the paper we use here to issue the books, pay a lot of tax. The books that the publishers are coming with from abroad are not paying taxes. You see, then it's not possible for us to give a better price to those publishers who are coming outside with the books without paying any taxes.
Despite the challenges, a good number of Cameroonians still click to their vision of making the printing profession in Cameroon more efficient and competitive, not without blaming the government.
I really think that the government can do something by applying some international convention who allow the paper which are going to be used for manual printing to do not pay taxes.
In a meeting aimed at weighing the strength and weaknesses of the printing profession, laws, government's role and stiff competition from the international market, which is playing negatively on printers. They, however, invited parents to orientate their children to what they call a noble profession.
And our guest in today's edition of Newscast is a young Cameroonian whose story is unbelievable but true. At the age of 15, she is an author to 6 books. The first was written when she was just 7 years old. The South African-based young Cameroonian has been making waves internationally. Gets the incredible story of Fru Stacy in this chat with our reporter Hyson Cha.
Fru Stacy, hello.
Hello.
Welcome and thanks for honoring our invitation.
Thank you for inviting me.
You understand it is your very first time in Cameroon. How are you feeling?
I feel great. I mean, the experiences that I've had so far, the food that I've eaten, the snacks that I've tasted has all lived beyond my expectations. So it's been amazing.
Stacy, your story is a very inspirational one. We are told you wrote your very first book at the age of 7.
Yes.
How was that possible?
It was made possible because 7-year-old me was absolutely fueled by revenge. So the whole story, or the background behind why I actually started writing, was back in 2014 when I was 7 years old. My mother graduated with her master's. Now, 7-year-old me at the time had no idea what a master's degree was, or that you had to write something called a thesis in order to graduate with your master's. So when I saw that my mother had written this book and everyone kept on saying, congratulations, it's amazing, I came to the conclusion that my mother had written this book without telling me. So I then decided that I was going to write my own book without telling her. So it was sort of like this thing where I wanted to pay back and get revenge, and that is why I wrote my first book.
And the most surprising part is that at the age of 9, the book was approved by the Department of Basic Education in South Africa to be studied in the primary school.
Yes.
And I want to believe at the age of 9 you were kind of, I don't know, at the Department of Education.
It was definitely surreal because I didn't really understand fully the gravity that was going to have on both myself and my fellow peers. So being in that space, knowing what was happening, was definitely changing for me. And unfortunately, I was in syllabus than the government syllabus, so I didn't actually get to see my books being put to use, but I do know that they're being put to good use.
You've been receiving many awards at your very tender age. As we are equally told, you've been gracing conferences all over the world. What is the motivation, Stacey?
I think the motivation that I see within myself and the fellow African child of what we can achieve if we continue to try. So the potential that I have to change and help more children, and the potential that they have to provide a new society for a new Africa.
At one point, have you ever felt like what you are doing is far more bigger than your age?
I think, yes, definitely. When I often, sit at interviews, it takes me aback as I listen to what I've actually accomplished, because at times I can forget that this is who I am and this is what I've done. So it becomes very troubling just, for me to be put into these different spaces at different times. But I do understand what I've done and what I have to do to live up to that.
Adding to the many awards you've received, yesterday you were recognized by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, for the brilliant work you've been doing. That should be another motivation from now henceforth.
Definitely. I mean, the symbolism that comes with receiving such an award from the President himself is a great honor, but with great honor comes great responsibility. So I now have this responsibility to...
True, Stacey, many will look at you now like a genius, like a model. What is that word you are living in Cameroon as you travel back to South Africa?
So the words that I would leave to any Cameroonian child who has ambition is that you have been presented with an example. I am your example of what can happen when you believe and when you burden others with your dream. When I was 7 years old, I gave my parents and my whole family the burden of taking me to the world, the burden of publishing my book. It is now your turn to see what you are passionate about and thrive for what you are passionate about, because your dream and your passion has no time limit. You have time. So think carefully and plan out.
You've heard from her rise up and write your own story. Who knows, you may write a better story more than what she has done. Thanks very much, Stacey, for accepting to talk to us.
Thank you for having me on the show again.
And we wish you a safe trip back to South Africa.
Thank you so much.
Quite inspiring there. Thank you so much, Aisha in charge. She's just 15, but an author of 6 books. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast, the English language and Canal International. But coming up next is The Brief with Kejang Henry Atembe.